Welcome, everybody. I am Jason Wright.
And I am your neighborhood sis, Ash T.
Distinguished gentleman, Jamie Wright.
I'm your man that's going to always keep it real, Jarrell Wright. Let's get it.
And we are the Our Blank Slate podcast crew. Welcome back to Our Blank Slate. And with this being our third show after our hiatus, I wanted to first say what the podcast is about and why we have chosen the name Our Blank Slate. I'll try to note this one more time for the next show, just so everyone is informed. But we want to bring together entertainment, education, informative data, and uplifting segments to stimulate and inform our culture on topics that contribute to mental, social, medical, and behavioral well-being. Every morning, we wake up to a fresh start, a blank slate full of potential. Our podcast, Our Blank Slate, celebrates this daily opportunity for growth and positive change. Every day brings a new chance for us to shape our lives, pursue our dreams, and make a difference in the world around us. Whether it's taking a small step towards a goal or making a bold leap into the unknown, we have the power to choose how we'll fill our slate. So I hope at the end of every show, you'll remember that your blank slate is a gift, a canvas for creating the life you envision. So join us every week as we learn to seize each day with enthusiasm, purpose, and joy. So let's make every day count on Our Blank Slate. With that being said, we're going to jump right into the show. Over the weekend and even last week, we got to talking about certain things. And over the weekend, a topic came up of when is in a relationship, if you continue to fight in a relationship, when is it time to say enough is enough? Or if you're staying in that relationship, is it self-betrayal? So as I got to thinking about it over the weekend, came over this topic, and I would love to know you guys' point of view on this. So our first social topic of the day is, at what point does fighting for the relationship become self-betrayal? All right. Now, I want you guys to think about that, because as you look at, fighting for the relationship, how does it, or when does it become self-betrayal? Because there are times, man, you can fight for a relationship. If one person is fighting, to me, that's self-betrayal, but if both are fighting, you have something to actually complete, you have something to fight for, you have something to actually accomplish. So when you look at relationships from a standpoint of, are we in this together? You would think, fighting for that relationship wouldn't be an issue. Especially if you're, in a young and in a relationship, man, especially when it's fresh and start. I mean, it seems like you got your whole life and everything you're going to spend every day together in your whole life together. But, older couples, they had to go through some things. And so, I would just like to, hear both of your perspectives on, at one point, does fighting for the relationship become self-betrayal? And so we usually start with the women, Rail. So tonight, we're gonna start with you. So
the more seasoned one.
More seasoned. Well, I'll take that. Why, thank y'all. Appreciate it. To me, when fighting for the relationships becomes self-betrayal is when you stay in a relationship that no longer works for you, that has become toxic or is unfulfilling. And what I mean by that is toxicity is when there's somebody that every time that you want to do something, you got to beg or plead for them to either allow you to go without arguing. You ask them to go with you. They don't want to be seen out in public with you. You're the one wanting everything to be happy-go-lucky for the relationship. But the person that you're with is basically not fighting. They're just there. Some of them could be there just for financial security. Some of them could be there because this is all they know. And some of them could be there because the fear of being alone. Like, I really don't want this person, but I'd rather have this person than be alone. And so those type of relationships become extremely toxic because you got one person fighting for it and the other one just there just to be there.
Right.
And then you start ignoring your own needs. Like, for example, if you always putting your significant other or partner or husband or wife needs above your own every time, and they don't do anything to compromise, everything is just a one-way street, that is self-betrayal. Because eventually you're going to get tired of that. And that's going to build into resentment, as well as it's going to build into possibly even hatred.
Agreed.
So that's something that you definitely want to keep in mind when you're dealing with someone that basically you're fighting for it, and that person's not fighting with you. It takes two to tango, what they always say. And then you start, like I said, you lose yourself, and then you become with harmful behavior. What I mean by harmful behavior is you start becoming bitter, or that person is already bitter. You're arguing all the time, and then that argument, that person is basically start emotionally or verbally abusing you, and then that can bleed over into physical, and the whole nine. So at some point, a person definitely got to know when their breaking point is before they actually break. So you want to be proactive on that. You don't want to have a breaking point after you done already broke, because at that time it may be something that you did that you can't take back. That it could cost you that person's life, cost you your freedom, or it could cost a lot of other things. So when it becomes something that is unfulfilling, or if there's only one person fighting for that relationship, and you're not that person, that you're the one fighting, the other person isn't, that becomes self-betrayal. That's my opinion.
How do you know? How do you know you're the only? I mean, I'm sorry. I'll ask a couple questions though. But how do you know you're the only one fighting?
I know when I'm the only one fighting, or when someone's the only one fighting, is when there's no compromise. When it's either their way or no way. Every time I'm saying, hey, this is something that I would like to see done, and that person, it goes in one ear and out the other, but yet everything that they're wanting, I'm trying to live by or uphold. That's when I know I'm fighting. And if you got to keep repeating something that you're lacking, that person either is an idiot or that person doesn't care. And we know that the person's not an idiot. So that person just literally doesn't care. So that's when you know that you're actually the only one fighting. And when you're always trying to please your mate, and your mate is basically just there for the beer, that's when you know that you're the only one fighting.
So I know I usually don't, ask the
Go ahead, yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
But so as you stated just now, that person is just there for the beer. So how do you know that though? So like you just said, some people could, with men or women, I'll put it that way, could be there, for financial reasons. How do you make that distinction? How do you say, man, you know what, man, I think I am in this alone by myself, and she's only here because, or he's only here because of me taking care of things. What in your opinion, what does that person see that would make, what signs should they look for? What other signs should they look for to be able to decipher that? Because I know there's a lot of couples out there that are in this situation, but they haven't been able to pinpoint it. So give us some clues on what you think that actually people can look for to see if that person is only there for, just for the laughs, just for the beer, or just for the money.
Can I jump in?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So all of that is subjective. You know what I mean? Like the clues and context clues of what you're looking for is really has everything to do with your happiness and everything to do with self-fulfillment in a relationship. And if you're not feeling self-fulfilled and you're not feeling happy, and if you're not feeling that your needs are met and that someone is acknowledging your feelings and emotional needs and compromising, again, I like that word, compromise. If that person feels less than in the relationship, then of course you start to ask why. You know what I mean? So then you start to look for the why. I mean, we can't just say, oh, somebody is abusing me for my money, because some people want to be abused for their money. Some people are like, just use me. Some people want to be abused for sex. Just use me. Some people want to be, you know what I mean? So I really just think it all depends on the level of happiness and self-satisfaction that one is receiving in that relationship. And if it's not a mutual, if it's not mutual reciprocity in the situation, then obviously you start to question why. And if one person is not willing to compromise to help, to help balance that out, then you, let me put the wine down. Then you start to question, what the whys. And then at that point you figure out, is it the money? Is it just because of these things that this person is staying around? Because relationships are, some are easy. They're work. Let me just say they're work, and they're consistent work. So you're going to have moments of unfulfillment in your relationship, but how do you work to get that back? And how do y'all work together as a team to bring that to understanding?
But my thing though is that, I'm just going off of what Will said earlier and a little bit of what you said, but how do you, what makes you, if you are feeling that, what I'm saying, just either one of those things. I got other questions, I got other things, but if you are feeling that and you stay, are you being the person that is there for, or being, or betraying yourself? Or we love, from movies to music to everything, to being a ride or die, and that person saying, man, hey, I know I am always there for that person no matter what. We love to romanticize ride or die. All right. So what's the difference if that person is saying, man, you know what, I'm staying with this person regardless. I'm gonna be here. I'm with you through thick and thin, through disappointments, because that's a lot of times, from what Sorrel, what you was talking about, it is through the disappointment. It is through the lack of I don't want to say lack of promises, but the unfulfilled promises. Saying we're gonna do this and don't. Saying I'm gonna do this and don't. But that partner continues to take it.
There has to be a threshold. There has to be a threshold in which you have some sense of morals and some sense of value of self before you ride or literally die. You have to have some kind of moral or self compass or self understanding to say, okay, either party. Like for me, I love my husband's dirty bathwater. I will do whatever he needs me to do. I will go above and beyond for my relationship. I am not throwing the towel in, but I have my non-negotiables. And if he was to ever cross them line, that's it. That's a wrap. I'm no longer riding dime, because we went into this with the expectation of these are my non-negotiables. And if you cross that line, I'm sorry. There has to be a line of respect. There has to. I'm sorry, Rel. I didn't mean to cut you off. Do you agree?
Oh, no, you're doing your thing, definitely. I mean, I get it with the ride or die concept, because now with the ride or die concept, that basically becomes like a loyalty trap, is what it is. Basically what that is. That's when one partner endures time after time after time mistreatment, or or neglect, or and lack of commitment, and they are expecting that person to still stay there because this person is ride or die. Like, I know I can do whatever I want to do, and this person is going to still stay there. That's what's called a loyalty trap. And eventually, that is not going to last, because eventually that person that's getting mistreated time after time after time is going to have a breaking point, like I keep saying. And once that breaking point gets there, then I think there could be some tragic ending to that relationship. So it's very important that you don't allow yourself to get pushed to that breaking point. Like Ashley said, know what your non-negotiables are. And then once those non-negotiables are, everybody's human. People have made mistakes. So if say one time the person goes through that way and you allow them to be forgiven, and then that should be your breaking. Okay, I'm gonna forgive you this one time, and because I love you and I do want to see us make it through. And we are human. We make mistakes. Like Clarkin said, we fall down, but we get up. So it's very important, but to know what your breaking point is and what your non-negotiables are. Because once they have passed that and they keep pushing the boundary on that, and at some point you got to know when to walk away, while it's still admirable and while it's still peaceful, before the law gets involved. And that song, like R. Kelly said, when a woman's fed up, or even when a man's fed up, there ain't nothing you can do about it. So definitely, you want to make sure that you know what your breaking points are, your non-negotiables are, and leave before you reach that breaking point.
Well, I think that's the major point, and that's what I was trying to push out of you guys is the boundaries. Ashley said it first. You have to put boundaries in place, and we romanticize the ride or die mentality because but emotional pain is not a sign of building strength. To me, so that signals that your boundaries are being violated repeatedly. And if you don't set those boundaries, then that's why I was about to jump in when you were saying it earlier. It leads to a devilish end, but sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't. That man or that woman just stays. And that endurance becomes dangerous because you start normalizing disrespect, you silence your intuition, and then you shriek your needs to keep the peace. That's not bravery. That's slow abandonment of yourself. But we usually we romanticize that ride or die, thinking that if we can go through this together, we're gonna come out on the other side together. But again, if someone is continuously overstepping those boundaries that you have set, you're not helping the relationship. You're continually eroding yourself.
Let me just say this one real quick. It all stems from, I think we are a product of our environment. This is my opinion. This is not no research done, but we are a product of our environment. I really think it has a lot to do with the silent era where our grandparents stayed in relationships that were unhealthy and that were abused and they were cheated on. And I mean, historically, if you look through I want to say the 60s and 70s is when men were out there drinking, abusing, and then our grandparents, 50s, 60s, 70s, around that time, our grandparents, great grandparents were just accepting of it, especially the women, because where else were they going to go? When you needed a provider, you needed somebody you couldn't work, you didn't have rights. So it's all I think that historically, and then you want to talk about genetic predispositions and how stuff has been passed down through genetics. I literally just was talking to my therapist about how I was stressed during my pregnancy and how that could have played out and affected my baby, and how it could affect her level of anxiety and her level of stress where she's at right now. And so it was agreed upon or solidified that we do pass down these predispositions of the genetic makeup. So I do think that it comes from a product of our environment. We're a long laundry list of women standing strong with our men, even when they're doing wrong. So when it comes to the woman perspective, I do feel like there's some historical data that plays in or goes into effect when it comes to why we decide to stay.
Well, I think so to be honest with you, there is that the people that stays no matter what. I mean, that leaving feels like failure. And then
That
sometimes,
too.
what I'm saying, then sometimes to your point, it's not relational failure, it's identity failure. You know what I'm saying? This is who they're supposed to be with, because to be honest with you, a lot of people say, I shouldn't say a lot of people say, to be honest with you, some people are innocent, cannot survive if I'm not the one who endures. It feels familiar. This is where and that's the one thing is it feels so familiar. You don't want to leave because, as they say, you stick with the devil instead of the devil you don't. And a lot of people are afraid. I always try to practice my vocals. And y'all remember that Chris Brown song? It's never a right time to say goodbye. You remember that song?
Go ahead, Chris.
But like you said, you don't know what's on the other side of that door. And a lot of people are afraid to walk out of that relationship because they don't know what's on the other side of that door. They feel like, for one, they've been disrespected enough that their self-confidence has been shattered. They have tolerated so much disrespect that they don't feel whole without that person. And athletes, you know what I'm saying? Athletes, pain is familiar. And in relationships, a lot of people talk about how, man, we've been through so much. So, you know what I'm saying? We have to stay together. Yes, but your nervous system has adopted to surviving that. And so the dysfunction is functional to you because you've been in it for so long. And so people are, I don't know if they're fighting for the relationship. I think they're fighting to avoid the unknown, to be honest with you.
I agree completely. I also think that to piggyback off of that and what I said is that you're also a product. Again, you're also a product of your environment. If you haven't seen healthy relationships, if you haven't been a part of the women or men in your family are in these toxic relationships, then that's what you know. You don't know anything else. You don't know. Remember, Rel, you sent that video out of that girl and that guy. They was scrapping. That they was fighting like I ain't never seen a man and woman. We think it was a man and a woman, but either way, they was on the road. I'm talking about throwing blow for blow. Shorty had him for a minute.
Yes, she did.
But if she don't know nothing, that's how she grew up. If she grew up in a toxic, how do you have? If you don't seek to do better, you don't do better. If you don't know that there's better, you sit in what you know. And right. So a lot of people that have not seen, unfortunately, have not seen healthy relationships, don't know how to gravitate or go seek healthy relationships. You are what you attract. If you've been through if that's what your norm is, then sometimes you do sit in it, whether it's what do we call it? Self-pity, self-betrayal. What we don't know, if you don't know better, you don't do better. And it's an unfortunate situation that some people do not have the strength to recognize that they deserve more. Either party, man and or woman. I've seen men get abused by women, women get abused by men. At the end of the day, you gotta want to do more and you gotta seek to do better. What's it when you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again? You get the same results? Insanity, exactly.
Doing the same thing over and over, but expecting different results.
Exactly. So but you don't know. If you don't know better, you don't seek to do better. And it is that ride or die mentality for me. I'm a ride or die until what's the word? Boundaries are crossed. I'm a ride or die until, you know what I mean? But I was raised with healthy relationships and I sought and currently seeking to do better and be a better person. So how, you know what I mean? If you don't do the work, you don't get the good results. If you don't sow the soil, if you don't plant the seed, if you don't prune the leaves and you don't take care of your garden, you don't get growth from it. So at the end of the day, you do have to want to do better. And a lot of the time, a lot of people don't want to do better. So that's just my perspective on, you know what I mean?
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I'm sorry, Ray, I know you're about to jump in. Just give me 1 second, though. I always feel like commitment is when you look at two people that's actually fighting or two people that's trying to make that relationship work. Commitment is rooted in mutual growth. I believe self-betrayal is rooted in self-neglect. Fighting for a relationship looks like both people are taking accountability. Change that is observable. So, say you were saying, man, I really don't like when you do this. And this person is making the change. It's observable and it's measured and it's sustained. Conflict that leads to resolution, not repetition. So when we had a fight, we had an argument, we resolved it, but we didn't continue it. All right. It doesn't come back up again. We don't continue arguing over the same things. And then you still feel like yourself inside that relationship. Self-betrayal, to me, is that you constantly override your boundaries. Every time this person, you have put that line in the sand, and now with that person, you're continually moving it. You defend behavior you would never accept it for a friend. If a friend was telling you, "Oh, girl, I never," or "Well, man, I never," but you accept it and you defend that behavior of that person, and then you are more anxious and peaceful. You stay because of potential and not patterns. You feel smaller, quieter, and less alive. I'm telling you, the moment you begin abandoning your standards to maintain that connection, you no longer are fighting for the relationship. You are fighting against yourself. And that's how I feel.
Very well put there, Jason. Very well put. I mean, you basically took a lot of things that I was going to say, but you just phrased them a little bit differently. But someone said something. I don't know if it was. I think it might have been you. Is when then some people are like, I've been here with this man or this woman for so long. I got too much invested to walk away now.
I
And
leave, was it all for nothing? Right, right. I got
yeah.
you.
And with that being stated, I hear that with some people a lot. And again, they're fearful of the unknown. So, like you said, they know this devil, but they don't know the devil, that they've never met before. And who knows, you might not meet a devil, you might meet an angel. But at the end of the day, you can never, ever sacrifice your self-worth to make somebody else feel more important. And if that person really loves you, they wouldn't want you to do that in the first place. And what they say, you don't hurt someone that you love. So if a person, intentionally, put it that way, if a person intentionally hurts you repeatedly over and over, you've communicated to this person that these are the things that hurt me. These are the things that you do that causes me unease. These are the things that cause me anxiety or cause me depression or get depressed or whatever. You're telling this person these things, and that person continually do the very things that you're asking them not to do. You're in this relationship alone. So if you didn't know that, you're basically self-betrayal. So if a person really cares and loves you, and once they listens to what your non-negotiables or your boundaries are, they're going to respect your boundaries because they're going to expect the exact same thing in return for them. They're going to want you to respect their boundaries. So those are key moments. And then let's say you got a person that, hey, let's go do counseling. And that person refuses to even want to consider doing counseling. That person has already given up. That person, or a lot of times, especially in the Black communities, when it comes to males, a lot of males don't believe in therapy, but as they're getting
Talk about
older,
that.
as we're
We'll talk about that more.
discovering that therapy is very therapeutic for men, women, Black, Asian, Latino, whatever. But coming up, and like Ashley said, the product of your environment, because growing up, you ain't going to a psychiatrist. Your psychiatrist was your mom and dad, and if you did something wrong, they're gonna beat that ass. And that was your therapy. And you ever notice once you got a good whooping, you slept great that night? And then you woke up
You cried the life out of you. You ain't had no more life. You had to
you slept great
rejuvenate.
that night. Right. So then you lived it another day, and then your behavior changed because you know that, hey, I don't want that ass whooping again. So I'm going to definitely I'm not going to push that boundary, but that's when it came to the parent. But no parents back in the day didn't say, hey, you need to go therapy, or let's put you on Ritalin, let's put you on, some type of medication. But those who didn't know that and those that didn't grow up that way, they may do the same, when it comes to their children. So it's good to know that there are a lot of advocates now out there for mental health and that, getting the therapy, talking to a mental health physician can definitely help increase your life happiness. It can also help you, be able to relate more with people. It can also help you be more successful in life. So therapy is something that is very, very, very encouraged. If a person needs that, it is just important to find the right therapist and do your research on that. But please, if it's yourself, if it's your spouse, if it's your child, allow yourself to try to find a good therapist to help you, where this will be something that you can talk to them about, and they can help you know if you're doing a self-betrayal, or they can help you discover if it's time for you to throw in the towel. And then hopefully your significant other, your partner, be willing to go with you, where they can then see their weaknesses, and then they can also start treating you better and enhancing your relationship. So these are the things that I would encourage. But again, if you you keep telling that person over and over the things that harm you, that hurt you, and that person keeps doing those repeatedly, you're in that relationship alone, and you're betraying yourself and your happiness. And for those of you who have children, it's very critical because your children are watching this.
Yeah.
And you're either raising an abuser or you're raising an abusee.
That's right.
Let that sink in.
That's right. That's
You're
right.
being abused.
They're going to mimic that.
They're going to mimic that. They're going to be like, well, my mom or my dad was abused and they stayed with that person because they loved them. So they're going to think they're supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. Or if they're seeing somebody abusing someone else, they may think that that's how they show love. their love language is violence. And so they can become an abuser. So if nothing else, you owe it to give your children the most stable home that you possibly can, so you can raise them to know how to treat a woman or know how to treat a man.
Or
And that's
how
my,
to be treated.
or as well as on how to be treated. Absolutely.
Right. All right. Well, then, as we book in this topic right here, I just asked the listeners. I challenge you, listeners out there today. And if you've been through, if you've been that ride or die, or if you've someone that have came out of a relationship because someone was overstepping their boundaries with you. Hey, put it in the comments. Let us know your story. Let us know what your issues are. And my thing is, hey, hit us up on our blank slate pod at gmail.com. Send us an email. Let us hear your story. We may put you on, but if you don't want to be on, we can actually read your story, and talk about how you came out of that, what you recognize, what traits did you see that made you make that decision. All right.
Make it clear that you wanted to be anonymous. If you wanted to be anonymous, then make that clear.
Right. But the question I ask you guys before we end this topic is, are you staying because you believe in what this relationship can become, or because you're afraid of who you'll become if you leave? All right. We'll leave it at that. Put your answers in the comments. All right. So we will move on to one of my favorite topics of the day. I always love the In My Feelings segment. And so whether it's Jamie, whether it's keeping it real with Rail, whether it's In My Feelings with Ashley, or keeping it real with Rock, this is my favorite section or segment of the show. So I will pass it over to Ashley. In My Feelings. Tell us why you're in your feelings, Ash.
So y'all know I'm all this holistic, blah, 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 I like to eat organic, not to minimize it, but that's just who I am, right? So I do a lot of research on, and when I'm in the store, I spend double the time. I get in trouble because my husband be like, all right, look, let's go, get it and go. But no, I got to read every ingredient before I make a decision. Like quite literally everything that I pick up, I read the ingredients to make sure there's not a plethora of unnecessary ingredients. Well, I got this new app that does it for you. And so all the organic stuff that I thought that was actually organic is not really organic. It just says organic in front of it. Well, I mean, you got to be careful with that anyway, because they still use pesticides, blah, blah, blah. But bread really takes 4 ingredients, maybe 5 ingredients if you want to get a little spicy with it. Do you know that some of these breads in the market have 33, 32, 37, 26? Let me tell you something. This app that I got, can I shout out the app?
Shout it out.
I had to pay for it. This app called Oasis just gave me a real quick reality check. Said, bitch, get your shit, because my shit ain't got, apparently. The other day I just made 7 loaves of bread, right? By myself.
Okay.
I knew what I needed. Only had 5 ingredients. I made rolls, I made bread, I messed up, I did it again, But I was being lazy today. That was last week. Today I was being lazy, and I thought I was going to make myself, I was going to buy some bread. I scanned the Dave's Killer Bread Organic. Y'all familiar with that?
Killer Bread? No.
It's called Dave's Organic Killer Bread. That mug said it was a 76 out of 100. You know how much that bread costs? Like $9.99 a loaf.
Damn.
Yes. Simple Truth Organic, 69 out of 100. Trader Joe's or organic brand, 67. And I'm talking about these are grades. These show the pesticides. These shows all of the ingredients. This shows all the out of 167. Trader Joe's, 67 out of 100. Sara Lee Brioche Artigiano bread, 51% out of 100. 51. Weighing in at 23 ingredients. What? Let's talk about the water. Let me sit up, because I'm not drinking. I'm drinking wine at night. Let me sit up. So we think that we're doing good by, and we'll get in this in the next topic too. But the amount of water that we drink, we have to drink a lot of water, right?
Right.
Well, Aquapana, which is supposed to be top tier, 73% out of 100. Crystal Geyser, 69% out of 100. Evian, 61% out of 100. Mountain Valley, that's in the green glass jar that everybody has transitioned to and saying, oh, this is top. This tea, this is no, it's not. 59% out of 100. And this app checks all kind of heavy metals, chemicals, all kind of PFAs, all kind of microplastics. This Mountain Valley got 59 out of 100. Do you know how much it costs to get Mountain Valley delivered to you every week or a gallon? I think we did it for the amount that we need for a 5-family household. It was like $300 and something or $200 and something a month to get water delivered. Let's go to your favorite, Dasani. You want to know what Dasani's rating is? Bringing in at a whopping 45% out of 100.
I do not know that. I did not know
Yes. So let me tell you something. Be mindful of the things that you're putting in your body. I say all of this to say that.
Hey, Ashley, what about Pure Life?
Oh,
I'm
you
bringing
want
that
to know
right
what
now.
Pure Life is. Pure Life is pure doo-doo, okay? Pure, like 15 out of 100%.
Damn.
Don't drink it. I literally, after the show, I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to show you what the rating is. It's really, and this goes by, this stuff is all tested, lab tested, according to the app. But there's other apps that you can get that do the same exact thing. So I'm very mindful about what I purchase, how I purchase it. I will spend an extra 20, 30 minutes in a grocery store to read down all the ingredients and also all of these I's and A's and facilitites and mectites and all these extra additives that you put in their stuff. It's not necessary. So this is going to be a transition, and this is going to help probably go into the next topic, because this is, as a result of all of these things that we're putting in our body, we're diminishing our lifespan, our health, all of the above, our mental health, our physical health. This all goes into play. So just be mindful about what you putting in your body. That is my take on it. This what's this segment called?
Feelings, in my feelings.
In my feelings. I'm in my feelings. I'm always in my feelings about this stuff because it really drives me crazy. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. Be mindful. Do your research.
I don't know if I want that app because I'd be scared to eat anything at this point.
I know, right? Hey, they would have me scared to eat anything.
Right. I don't know about that.
I'm gonna look up Nestle Pure Life right now.
Because some of those products that you say, I use on a daily basis, and so
Yes.
I don't know if I want to.
Oh, you don't want to look at eggs. You don't want to look at eggs.
Let's
the
not,
amount of hormones that's in it. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. Okay.
Because I like breakfast. All right, I like eggs. So let's not.
Yeah, I don't want that.
You want my appetite. Like,
ooh, you don't want to know what Nestle Pure Life is?
Well,
Sorry.
Pure Life, let me, what is it?
yes, go ahead and tell us.
45.
I'm sitting here sipping on it.
45% out of 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, my thing though is, hey, as her being our health and wellness, coach on the show, I would, shout out to the app Oasis, that gives this information. There's a lot of things from a standpoint of what you take into your body, whether it's the water, the food, the bread, the meats, the anything. You have to make those decisions, the healthy choices for you, your family, and your lives. All right. So as we are entering this, the world is getting different and different every day. As we are learning more about the food and the contents that we bring into our body, it would just be good that we do some research so we make sure that we take care not only ourselves but the people we love. All right, y'all good with that?
Now with the Pure Life, had you said 43, that was my breaking point. So since it's 45,
You're good.
I'm good. Now if you said 43, no mas. No mas.
45, we good.
45, we good. We good at 45. I can rock with that.
That's funny. Hey, we gotta move on. Hey, so you know what? I'm gonna have, since Ash, hit us with the health on that one. So for the topic on the health and wellness, I'm gonna let you take this one. It's kind of on the opposite, but I'm gonna let you take Jarrell, you stupid. This topic on health and wellness, our second topic of the show, is men's health is in trouble. Why men are dying younger and talking less. I think, this is a stigma, definitely a stigma in the African American communities, and it's actually reality. It's a reality right now that African American men, and men in general, but African American men, and more or are dying at younger ages, and we don't go to doctors as much to talk about it, or even to mental health, as mental health physicians. So I'd like to hear both of you guys' perspective on this topic. I'll start with you, Ash.
Well, based off of the information, the research that I've done, it's kind of like what we talked about, a little bit of what we talked about the last episode about libido and drive and all of that. This kind of plays into all of that. There's a guy called Dr. Josh Axe. He did a big talk on this. I think he has a podcast. I think he has a podcast, but he did a big talk on this. And a lot of doctors that I have been following, I'm a research buff, and I like to hear straight from them. So a lot of them do have YouTube channels, but a lot of them say that it is because there's been a dramatic drop in testosterone. I'm saying like I'm Spanish still. Testosterone, and the over in the men, in the male species, and it has been decreasing since the 1960s. And so they say that today the levels of testosterone that 20-year-olds have, I'm looking at my notes so that I can say this right, is the same amount of testosterone as a men in their late 60s back in the day. Mm-hmm. So do the math. With that, the decreasing of testosterone, it is linked to heart disease, cancer, weaker bones, diabetes, smaller muscles, erectile dysfunction, low self-esteem, lack of motivation, gaining weight, depression, and anxiety. All of these things have something to do with one hormonal level, which they found that men with decreasing testosterone levels have an 88% increase in risk of death. Do you hear that? If you have low testosterone levels, you have an increase of 88% risk of death compared to those with normal testosterone levels. So, where are men going? Are we taking care of all of these issues? Are we looking at testosterone levels? Are we looking at all of these indications or predispositions that no one is really in these doctors? Let me preface this to say these doctors are saying that people are being misdiagnosed with all of these other conditions and health issues because testosterone levels are not being tested properly. Testosterone levels have dropped 33% in the past 50 years, which means the increase of death is increased. The rate of death is increasing, right? So something has to be done. So at some point you have to take accountability for yourself and go get tested. So they say one of the big things you can do is go get your sperm tested, get your sperm count done. A low sperm count has a high indication for, hold on, let me get that last note that I got. Low semen analysis, called a semen analysis. Let me be politically correct. A semen analysis, go get a semen analysis, and it is a predictor of overall health. If your levels are impaired, it's a indicator of comorbidities. So then you start looking at stuff like your testosterone levels. But main reason, I'm going to shorten this right now, but there's three main reasons why testosterone levels are three main causes of decrease in testosterone levels is lack of energy, lack of cellular energy, is sleep, diet, working outdoors. And that has changed over time because we have more jobs behind men. Specifically have more jobs behind the desk. You're not using your hands. You're not outside in the sun. You're not doing all of the moving and the physical activities that they were doing back in the day, right? So you have men, the stress level is increasing because of these jobs as well. So I'm just looking over my notes, so don't judge me right now. But also cellular toxicity. That means the chemicals in our food, the chemicals in our environment that we can't do anything about that. We can cleanse our body, but it's something that's innate. It's going to happen. The phthalates, which are the microplastics, the hormones in our meat and dairy have increased exponentially. The amount of BPA in our water, aluminum, all of the heavy metals, and all of these things block and alter how men produce testosterone. So there's a lot to be said, and to look, and based off of my research, it is a lot to be said, and it might be so much more beneficial. And I'm going to put now I'm going down a rabbit hole with my husband, because we need to go check these levels.
I mean, so from a testosterone standpoint, though, you can go to the doctor and get a testosterone shot, a booster, or you can, send myself, I put myself out there. I take nutrigenics. You know what I'm saying? So I just think, again, I don't feel tired. I don't feel, well, I'm a little tired now because I ain't no sleep, but I'm not at that level. But I want to make sure that I don't fall into that hole. And so I did my research on it. But from a testosterone standpoint, you can get that. You can get that in other places.
There are medications that you can get. There are many medications that help increase the levels of testosterone. There are things that you can get testosterone, or you can get things that help your body make and produce testosterone. But there are many side effects on just taking testosterone alone. So you have to be careful depending on where you are in your journey, as far as having kids, as far as just where you are along that spectrum, because you have to be careful with taking testosterone, period, just alone, how that affects you in other areas. So it is best to seek doctors' counsel before taking any kind of testosterone, because we don't know how it affects you based off your other predispositions. And also there's other things that you can do. There's other things that you can do, period. You don't have to go straight to medication. You can change. It's a change of lifestyle that has to happen. You have to work out. You have to take vitamin D. You have to take zinc. You have to take those at the proper time with the proper supplements so your body can absorb it right. But there's certain things that you can do. You can cut out the alcohol. You can cut out, you can create better sleep patterns or better sleep habits for yourself. All those things decrease your testosterone levels. And so based off of my information, based off of the research that I've done, it looks like the reason why there's an increase in male morbidity. Do I want to say it that way? That sounds so morbid. Is because there has been a significant decrease in levels of testosterone. Look up studies. There's a Mike Eisenberg, and that does some real good studies on testosterone levels and sperm counts and diabetes and heart disease. Mike Eisenberg, I'll say that again. Josh Axe talks a lot about it, but there's so many other things,
No, I appreciate you, from that perspective, as we look at, certain things when it comes to men's bodies and men's mental health, the items that you brought up, testosterone is definitely something that, from a standpoint that men, it is a hormone that men need to thrive, and men need to be successful in life. So within their lives. So Real, what do you have to say? Because I got quite a few things I want to talk about. So we only got about 12 more minutes in this topic. So I wanted to make sure that I got you in there as well.
With me, and the reason why I think it's like that is men are dying younger and talking less. Is a lot of men are conditioned to be providers. Real talk. We're conditioned to be providers, and we know we don't have time to get sick, because if we don't work, we don't, we miss out on money. We miss out on opportunity to provide.
Bible say man don't work, he don't eat.
Yeah, right. If a man don't work, he a young dog. He would say it the best, young dog. But it's very, very important that a man does get the medical attention that they need. But a lot of men refuse to go to the doctor because they're like, man, I gotta get to work. I gotta go to work. I gotta make this money. I gotta pay these bills. And when it's ingrained in us when we're little. What usually happens when a little boy falls down and he hurt himself? What they tell him to do? Get up. You all right? Ain't nothing wrong with you.
That's right.
That little boy in pain. But we're taught to ignore that pain and get up. And now, if it's a girl cries, a little girl falls, everybody rushing to go pick her up and everything else. Well, a little boy falls, get up. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You all right? Shake it off.
That's not true. That's not true because testosterone levels in women are very significant. I didn't want to talk about women, but we can talk about that later. Very significant too.
But he's right though. He's right though because
everybody rushing to go pick her up.
Not me. I got a daughter. I'll be like, girl, get up and brush it off.
Nah, but Jarrell's right though. He's right. You know what I'm saying? Our nervous system responds to the same stress the same way the female's nervous system does.
Exactly. But with a young he fall, get up, ain't nothing wrong with you, dust it off, be a man. And we're ingrained in that coming up as a young kid all the way up. And even in the military, we were taught that pain is weakness leaving the body. So pain is telling you that something's wrong with you. So you need to go get it checked out. It's basically what it is. But culturally, when we talk about culture, men are taught to be tough. Men are taught to shake it off. Men are taught to, hey, you all right? Men are taught to be tough. Men are taught to be protectors. And by going to the doctor, sometimes you can be considered vulnerable or weak, back in the day. But nowadays, it's very important that we do that because in order to be able to take care of your family, first and foremost, you got to be able to take care of yourself first. Like they say on the airplane, before you can help others, you got to put your air mask on first. Because if you pass out, then how can you help someone else? So it's very important that men take care of themselves. And a lot of men are dying young as well because of what they're eating, what they're smoking, what they're drinking. And we live, I can say we, but men live a little more dangerous life. Some of the jobs that they work in construction, they work high stressful jobs. They work like roofing, they work on tall buildings, crane operators. There's a lot of different jobs out there that are hazardous that young men work, so that contributes also to their lifespan and stuff of that nature. So the reason why men are dying a lot younger today, again, is because of the things that culturally we are basically taught. Like I said, when you got pain, you little boy, get up, ain't nothing wrong with you. You all right, shake it off. Don't be crying. Big boys don't cry. And we're taught that. And so as we grow up, we're taught that, hey, tough it out. And you could have some of the best medical insurance out there, and a lot of men don't even use it.
They never use it.
They don't use it. They basically got it for their families and not for themselves. So again, us as men, in order to be able to take care of our families, we have to be here. If you sit here and you're dead, how can you take care of your family? You leaving your family out there to fend for themselves. So first and foremost, it's very important that is one of the things that you do. And also, it's important, like Ashley said, to monitor your health. It's important to monitor your blood pressure. It's important to monitor your AC1 count. It's a lot of things that we as men don't do. Because you notice one thing about women. Women get their monograms. Women go get their womenly exams. That's why women are living a lot longer than men. Men don't. We should be getting our colon checked. We should be getting our what's that the one that I can't stand. I can't think.
Blood pressure, cholesterol, sugar, A1C.
Prostate. We should be getting our prostate checked. That's what it escaped me for a second. We should be getting our prostate checked. Especially, it used to be 50, but now they're telling you start that at 40. So men need to be more proactive and be going to at least get annual. I encourage every man at nothing else, go get a physical every year. That is extremely important. And that because with a physical, they do a complete gamut, your blood work, everything. And then if we can catch something at an early stage, we can either root it out or we can treat it a lot sooner than when it's in a stage 4 process. And that's when a lot of men, when their arm about to fall off, well, I better go to the doctor now. And by that time it's too late. So again, let's make sure that we as men, let's check on one another. And the spouses, they do a great job of telling you to go to the doctor, but a lot of you don't go. And it's important that we all go there because if you want to be there for your family, friends, and loved ones, Only how you can endure that and only how you can make sure that happens is by taking care of yourself first, so you can be here to help take care of others.
And
And that's my take. Again, I didn't do a lot of research on this one because I just wanted to be able to talk straight from the dome on this. And I see a lot of men that don't go to the doctor. And I'm always highly encouraging my friends and family to make sure, go get at least, if nothing else, an annual checkup each and every year.
but ladies,
And I got a personal story. We got our father,
okay.
Bishop Jerry D. Wright. He been walking around with a bad knee.
Oh, he gonna
And
kill
I
you.
had a conversation with him just last week. We had a conversation. He been walking around with a bad knee. He needs a knee replacement. He does. He's researching everything else, stem cells, anything he can research to try to help his knee, but what it exactly needs, and it's a knee replacement. So he's waiting on God to heal him, and we're praying that happens. But I think God has put us here to say, hey, go get the knee replacement.
Tell them to use some comfrey oil.
Hey,
It helps regenerate cells. Seriously, it helps regenerate cells. Comfrey oil. We'll talk about it later.
We'll tell him about that. And he'll try it too. He'll try it.
He needs
But
the surgery.
that's a perfect example of how he got the best medical insurance and not putting it to good use. So he could really be getting that. He could have had that done years ago and been back to his normal life, but he refuses to get the knee surgery.
He wants to play basketball and pickleball and everything else, and he don't want to take a break from that. You know what I'm saying? He a little later in life, so he want to make sure that he get to live out his days. And so that was actually a perfect example. But I wanted to throw one thing in. Rail was like, men dying, and ladies, they don't leave anything for their families. Ladies, make sure you get good insurance on your husband, all right? Because he can take care of you when he's dead, all right? You can make sure you got a good life insurance policy on him, all right?
True that.
All right.
True that.
Hey, so Rail, man. Hey, you both hit on some good points, but Rail, I think your point on culturally is probably really the biggest issue when it comes to men. As we talk, I have several points that I wanted to make, and I'm glad you guys afforded me the time for it. But when you talk about and what you said, I'm a piggyback off on the cultural things, because as we said, so men are taught, our boys are taught from an early age, hey, tough it out, hey, pick yourself up, get off the ground. We're not taught to take that pain. You know what I'm saying? We always, hey, don't cry, man up and handle it. But so what happens? That pain, it doesn't disappear. We end up internalizing it. And so emotional suppression activates chronic stress pathways. And when I say that, I mean chronic stress increases blood pressure. It weakens your immune function. It elevates inflammatory markers, and it actually contributes to cardiovascular disease. The body will keep your score. You may not do it mentally, but your body will. So as he said, culturally, cultural masculinity says suppress it. Biology says process it. Heart disease, all of that, cancer, all of that, it doesn't listen to pride. All right. When the culture overrides biology for decades, the body eventually collapses under the weight. All right. We don't go to doctors, and we are taught to endure pain, outwork illnesses, ignore symptoms and push through exhaustion. Heart disease doesn't respect pride. It doesn't. It don't care about what your ego is. Cancer doesn't negotiate with toughness. Depression doesn't respond to denial. By the time many men seek care, the conditions are advanced and it's too far gone. The delay is not accidental. It's actually cultural programming. Jarrell just talked about this. This is how we, as men, what I'm saying, from boys to adolescents to men, to young men to men, this is what we are taught our whole life. And even though society is evolving, men still operate in environments where, emotional expressions carry, I don't know whether it's a social risk or whatever, but, vulnerability, can invite ridicule. It does it all the time. When you're emotional, that transparency can feel unsafe. So what do we do? We keep that pain inside. And what does that pain translate to or convert to? Irritability, some workaholism, alcohol use, emotional withdrawal. That's what a lot of men do when they hurt. They don't talk to a friend. They don't talk to somebody and talk about what they're going through. We don't do a lot of that, because culturally we're taught to be tough, and we respond with the responses of, I'm just tired, I'm good, I got it, and then we start isolating ourselves more, and then things get more critical, the depression, and as depression goes in, you have higher risk of heart disease, you have sleep disruption. Me and Ashley was talking about it earlier with lack of sleep. Dementia and cancer and all of that comes into play. You have less sleep. You have a weakened immune system. So there are a ton of things that men go through that we don't actually voice, or articulate. Loneliness. Men get. Let's be honest, man. Men get lonely. And loneliness has been shown to increase mortality risk comparable to smoking. So, when you compare that to someone that's been smoking their whole life, and we say, hey, their life's gonna be affected to that. If a man is isolated, if a man is lonely, he has about the same mortality rate as someone that's been smoking their whole life. So we have to talk. We have to we have to communicate it. You have to let it out. You have to talk to someone. And we talked about this last time, it's about men just speaking to someone, whether it's a therapist, whether I don't even say whether it's a pastor, whether it's somebody, to get that off your chest. Because if you have unprocessed stress, it can become chronic stress. And chronic stress becomes a disease of one of the natures that I just got through speaking to. And what we don't want on this show is more men isolating themselves. Women are generally socialized to maintain emotional, intimate relationships. Men often socialize around activity-based bonding, like sports and things that we like to do. But when we as men take time out of our day to reflect, to actually to open ourselves, to open up to and be vulnerable, that is a lot of time. It's a scary place for most men. All right. That's why it's important to have a good woman in your life. All right. If you got a good woman in your life, I'm sorry, this is a little sidebar. I'm just, saying, just to the men out there, hey, get you a good woman in your life. All right. Someone that you can talk to, someone that you can tell your secrets to, someone that you can tell how you're feeling. Because if you don't have that, if you don't have that network, if you don't have someone that you can voice this stuff to, it will internalize you. It will internalize, and you will be a victim of a lot of the things that we just got through talking about. Silence is not strength. Silence is pressure. And we want to get away from that. So, I went on a long rant for a second, but I guess I'll equate it to just one sentence. Men, if something is going on within your body, I need you to speak up. Whether it's to your wife, your girlfriend, your spouse, significant other, a therapist, your pastor, your best friend. Talk to somebody. Don't let that continue to internalize. Or you, as we talked about, will be one of the statistics that live a shorter life. And that's what I got on that one. So if anybody else want to say any other thing else on this, before we book in this topic.
Well, I just want to say real quick something very simplistic. Like you said, definitely get the help you need. But one thing you definitely want to be able to do is schedule an annual physical. Like I said, schedule your checkups, your routine checkups. It's very important to do that. Very important. Because by doing that, you know your numbers. You want to know your numbers. You want to know your blood pressure. You want to know your cholesterol. You want to know your blood sugar. These are all the things that being in the African American community and we are at risk of. And you know, I'm sure everybody heard the expression back in the day, he got that sugar. That sugar basically is that diabetes. And that diabetes can cause you to lose limbs, and it can definitely take your life. So,
Right.
but if we can stay proactive and by getting our routine checkups, we can know our numbers. And then after that, you want to definitely build a healthy type of schedule, meaning if nothing else, we all work, we all busy, but just like you take your car to the mechanic when it needs a tune up, you got to do something with your body as well. If nothing else, go walking. Try to get one of those Fitbits, and it'll help you keep your count for your steps. Try to shoot a goal for say I'm gonna at least walk 10,000 steps each day. And then if you fall short, try to make sure each day you go more and more steps. You want to get your body going. And then last but not least, you got to prioritize sleep. Sleep right there is something that's so critical for everybody. And at least try to get to a minimum of 6 to 7 hours of sleep. They recommend 8 to 9, but 6 to 7 hours of sleep at a minimum. And those 4 things there can help us men as well as women live longer. So we can be here for our loved ones and for each other. And that's my bookend on that.
I'll start. I'll say, I think that both topics, all 3 topics, even in my feelings today, was significant in that you need to put self first. Do your research, understand self, what your expectations are, what it is you want out of life, your health, your relationship, all of the above. And do your research. Be an advocate for yourself. If you're not an advocate for yourself, and you don't like Rose said, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not good for anybody else. You got to put self first. So be intentional about yourself. Y'all got any questions? If y'all got any topics y'all want me to look up, research. I am a research buff. I don't know why, but I love to look up stuff. And I'm not just talking about Google. I'm talking about like peer-reviewed articles. I'm talking about from the doctor's mouth to my ears. So let me know. Y'all have a good night. I'm gonna enjoy my wine and tequila.
What's up? What's up? All
That's
right.
what's up.
Yeah, what you got?
Oh, and parting, I just wanted to recognize you 2 extinguished colleagues. You know, it definitely is very blessed to be on a show with 2 people that's very passionate, such as yourself. Ashley is with the health and wellness. She does a lot of research, and she lives what she talks. And then with Jason is a person that definitely does a lot of research. And even though I'm the oldest of the bunch, I definitely admire both of you guys. And they say those who teach learn, and I learned something tonight. So I hope our audience did as well. So I look forward to these podcasts. It gives us a chance to interact. It gives us also a chance to learn, and this gives us also a chance to hear from other people's perspectives. So I really enjoy being here. And again, those who are watching, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we thank you for that. And we like for you to keep. Thank you.
That's what's up. That's what's up. All right, man. Hey, no, real, you got me hyped up for that one, man. Hey, so in my closing segment, I re-talk about the last topic. So just in kind of summary, on the first topic, ladies and gentlemen, make sure we're setting boundaries. All right, please make sure you're setting boundaries in your relationships, whether it's your girlfriend, boyfriend, engagement or marriage. Make sure you are setting boundaries and live by those boundaries. Don't let people overstep or push those boundaries. All right, strength is not how much pain you can endure. Strength is how deeply you can honor yourself. All right, fighting for love is noble, but it's only noble when both people are fighting for each other. Growth is mutual, respect is intact. But if you are the only one evolving, if you are the only one sacrificing, if you are the only one shrinking in this relationship, that's not a partnership. That's self-betrayal dressed up as loyalty. All right. So with that being said, we will go into the ending or reflections of the show today. So tonight, I want to leave you with a quote from Marcus Aurelius. Now, I watch Spartacus all the time, so
That's my show.
Yeah, so I was thrilled to have found this quote. But it says the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Now let that sink in a minute. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Not your circumstances, not your past, not what someone did to you, not what you didn't get. It is the quality of your thoughts. Now, let me go into deeper than that. It's powerful because it brings everything back to the one thing we actually control. What we choose to think when we wake up with our blank slate. Every 24 hours, life hands us a fresh day. But what shapes that clay, but life hands us fresh clay. But what shapes that clay isn't luck. It's mindset. It's the narrative we rehearse in our own minds. If our thoughts are filled with excuses, resentment, fear, or self-doubt, then that's the architecture of our day. But if our thoughts are rooted in growth, accountability, resilience, and gratitude, then our day begins to rise to meet that standard. Now, I also want to speak directly to the men listening tonight. There's another quote from Fred Rogers that says, anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that's mentionable can be born manageable. Men's mental health matters, period. Too many men have been conditioned to internalize pain, to translate stress into silence, to carry pressure without processing it. But here's the truth. Strength is not suppression. Strength is awareness. Strength is being able to say this is heavy and still choosing to move forward intentionally. On our blank slate, we believe every sunrise is a reset, not a denial of yesterday, but a refusal to be imprisoned by it. If yesterday was heavy, today is not an extension of it, unless you allow it to be. Your blank slate does not erase your experiences. It empowers your responses to them. If your thoughts have been harsh towards yourself, today, I'm asking you to choose discipline without self-destruction. If you've been overwhelmed, today you can choose one focused action instead of 10 scattered words. If you've been silent about what's weighing on you, today you can choose to speak, even if it's just to yourself first. There's progress over excuses, growth over stagnation, and courage over comfort. The choice resets every 24 hours. So as you lay your head down tonight, ask yourself one question. What kind of thoughts will I allow to shape my slate tomorrow? Because your life is not built in decades. It's built in days. And days are built in decisions. Tomorrow morning, when that sun rises, your slate will be clean again. Make it intentional, make it courageous, and make it count. This is Jason Wright from Our Blank Slate, and your next 24 hours are waiting. Have a blessed one. We'll see you next week.